Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Inc., New York's window company, Capital One Bank, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from AVR Realty Company, LLC, Briarwood Organization, Beechwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman and Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. Siami Construction, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackle Realty Services, M&T Bank, Markham LLP, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Meridian Capital Group, the Moynihan Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Newmark Knight Frank, Orphanides and Associates, SJP Properties, Sterling and Sterling Inc., Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, the Witkoff Group.
Hello, my name is Michael Stoller. You know, there's something called Long Island, and there's Nassau, and there's Suffolk County, and, people, there are things going on in Nassau and Suffolk County, for the New Yorkers. And, my show is on Nassau and Suffolk County, and my show airs on the internet around the world. So I felt it's really important to tell my viewers what's happening in the residential market. And we'll even talk a little bit about the retail and the office market in Nassau and Suffolk County. My guests today include Michael Dubb, the president, chairman, CEO of the Beechwood Organization; Mark Bache, also the principal, president, chairman of Landmark Properties; another chairman over there, Bob Coughlin of Tritech; and last but not least, he doesn't have a chairman title, but he runs all of Long Island for Avalon Bay, Matt Whalen, Vice President of Development at Avalon Bay Communities. You've got a lot of developments taking place in Long Island. Tell me about what's going on with those developments.
Well, it's a unique time for us in our history on Long Island. We're in the midst of three fairly substantial rental developments, which is what we do in different parts of Long Island, and it's really just by coincidence, not less by design. One of them took about 8 years to come to fruition.
Easy zoning.
Well, and the gentleman here will, I think echo that, being a really commonplace event on Long Island, that things just take a long time. So these three different developments, and one in Rockville Center, which we're really excited about. It's under construction. It's a true TOD next to the train station, and then we're getting ready to get started on another one in Garden City in the Mitchell Field area, and then we're in the final stages of the approvals on one in Huntington Station next to the train station there. So there's it's close to 1,000 units. It's about $250 million worth of investment, and just so happened to take place
now,
at the same
the
time.
interesting thing that you bring up about all of these are that they are next to the train station, which I think has some value, because being next to the train station gives them the capability of coming into the city or working in Long Island.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it, and that's, I think, why we chose these two developments. Rockville and Huntington are really the true transit-oriented developments, and Avalon on Long Island is trying to serve a different customer than Michael or Mark or Bob, where it's over 50% of our residents are under the age of 35. So it's really the young person, and there's not a lot of rental product on Long Island to begin with, and so putting them by a train station gives us the flexibility of maybe reaching a different customer base. So, Rockville Center is one of the only true, what people are calling cool downtowns, where if you're a young person, you actually would enjoy living in that downtown and not feel like you need to live in Brooklyn or Manhattan all the time. So,
I mean, but you do have an old property, but it's a great property in Long Beach, and people like. Would you consider Long Beach a cool downtown also? Or?
I think Long Beach is considered one of the areas. I mean, downtown Huntington, Rockville Center, and Long Beach, I think, are what people mention as places. Patchogue are sort of vibrant downtowns, which I think young people are looking for as options to live. And Long Beach obviously has the added attraction of the waterfront. So we've owned that asset for about 15 years, and it's been a really successful asset for us.
We talk about Patchogue. You have something in Patchogue.
We're doing a mixed-use project in downtown. We're basically revitalizing the center of the village right now. We've recently received approvals for 240 units of rental apartments, about 30,000 square feet of retail, and a 111-room hotel. And then within about the last month or so, we actually just finished a renovation of a 100-year-old building on Main Street. In
Patchogue? In
Patchogue, retail on the lower level. It's about 26,000 square feet with 3 levels, retail on the lower level, office on the upper 2. And we were actually surprised at how quickly the office space went. The office space fairly well leased up before we took the scaffolding down.
What type of rents do you get for the retail?
The retail, we're surprised that the retail numbers we're getting are just below $30 net a square foot.
And mom pops or any
Yeah,
nationals?
there really aren't any nationals to speak of in the marketplace right now. We're seeing groups, we have a few restaurants. We've recently signed a letter of intent with a bank. We also, besides the space we just finished, the other 30,000 square feet, we have people calling us about that. We've recently signed a letter of intent with a bank branch for space we haven't started on yet. And those are all in the $28 to $30 square foot range.
Now, Matt, on your 3 developments that you're talking about, do you have retail?
We don't. On Rockville Center, it's obviously right within the downtown of Rockville. Huntington Station it's a little bit different. There's not really a demand for retail. What we hope is in Huntington, with the revitalization of the area, Huntington is a large development proposal. It's 530 units, and we'll wind up, hopefully somewhere near that. And hopefully after we develop, that would create some retail demand.
Now, one question, Bob, on yours. Yours is age restricted or it's open?
No. No age restriction. We do have workforce housing components. We have 67 workforce housing units.
And for my audience, explain workforce housing units.
Workforce is a limitation that we have for 20%. We're at 80% of the area median income.
Which is relatively close to $100,000,
about
right?
Just 98,000 or so. And then out of that 80%, we can use 30% towards the rental income. Okay. So it really doesn't limit us on the market rate. We're very close to market rate.
Now here's the interesting thing. I hear what his customer base, under 35 years of age. So now the situation, they can go to you to buy a house.
That's correct.
I mean, it's a perfect lead-in. I didn't realize I was giving a sales pitch for you and then for you.
I love Matt's numbers. I mean, I don't need 1,000 homes. I'll be fine with 100 homes.
So what are you building today?
I'm building all single-family right now, subdivision properties throughout basically Brookhaven Township. My product is pretty much 4-bedroom, 2-story, 2-car garage, full basement on half-acre lots. Some of it's spot, but primarily most of it is brand new subdivision, greenfield subdivision. And my pricing, although I have pricing down in the $399 range, most of the product is going for between $450,000 and $500,000.
And who's your buyer?
The buyers are varied, but primarily the buyers are families that probably had a $300,000 small ranch house that grew out of it and realize that the cost to renovate it or bring it up to what they need for the future doesn't make sense, and they can sell it easily in the market, and they move up. So they're move-up buyers, but they're not the move-up buyers we had in the past. They're move-up buyers that are looking for a relatively inexpensive but livable residence. They're not looking to get into the $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 range. They're all looking for a nice Energy Star compact footprint, 2,000, 2,200 square feet.
And these aren't age restricted?
No age restriction whatsoever.
we're talking about the convenience. These people who are buying, where are they living? Where are they working?
Most of them are working on Long Island. And most of them work in Suffolk County or in eastern Nassau County. Huntington would be pretty much the cutoff.
And Bob, your people, where would they be working?
Hop Hog, Brookhaven National Laboratories.
So they would
local.
be Long Island based?
They'd be mostly Long Island based. I think there's so much demand from the university, Stony Brook University, the local hospitals, and Brookhaven National Labs that there's significant demand in the market.
Michael, tell my audience what you're doing.
Well, currently we're building Meadowbrook Point on the site of the former Roosevelt Raceway, right in the center of Nassau County. 720 units. The units range in size from 1,000 feet to 3,000 feet, so we have product for a wide variety of needs. It's age restricted.
But it's 48 years of age,
right,
as opposed to a 55 age restricted.
That's correct. It's 48. Concept being there are empty nesters at 48. Why not let them have a home? And we were able to convince local government that that made sense.
And what are the prices on that range?
The prices range from about $500,000 to $1 million, again, depending on the size of the unit. There are apartments there, and there are townhomes.
Now, most of the people are people who've had a home before and are selling that home and moving into a new home, would you say?
You know, it's an interesting, I've studied this, interesting demographics. If you slice Nassau into thirds, calling north, middle, and south, about 30% comes from each of those, and then about 10% from Queens and Western Suffolk. It's been pretty mixed, but the fact that we're in the middle of Nassau County helps. And then in Suffolk County, within the last 6 months, we broke ground on 288 units surrounded by a municipal golf course. And the price range is $450,000 to $500,000, and
is that age restricted?
55 and over.
Now, you know, New York City people don't understand what age restricted. I mean, my joke a couple years ago about the age restricted is, you know, they have the community center, right? They have a town center. And then they have the pool room, and they have everybody has bocce courts. I don't know how it happened, these places. What amenities are there in these?
Well, we don't do bocce, but understand that when people reach a certain age, they become empty nesters, their needs vary. Some people are looking for just a home. They want to travel. They're still working. Other people are looking for a lifestyle. These type of communities offer.
So what is Meadowbrook? What are the amenities in Meadowbrook?
Meadowbrook has a 25,000 square foot, $12 million clubhouse with indoor, outdoor swimming pools, a beauty salon and spa. I mean, a real operating one, not a fake one, and a sundry shop where they can have breakfast, lunch, get a quart of milk, get a loaf of bread. Again, the idea of a lot of what Matt and Bob have been describing is we want to reduce dependence on the automobile a little. And so, you know, when I started this community, people said, boy, that's a congested area. Now they say, what a convenient area, because they don't have to travel as much to do things.
And what about in the other development, the one?
Well, obviously you have a golf course at your disposal.
Right.
That you don't have to pay for as a community. You just use it as you go and pay and play because it's public. But that also will have a spa, gym, weight room, swimming pools. It'll have a lifestyle, and people embrace that. I mean, these people come and they're reinvigorated. They feel like they're at camp year-round, and it's wonderful to see people enter this new phase of their life and wake up a little bit. So,
now, you know, prior to the show, we were talking and we were bringing out the fact that a big problem that you have in Long Island is there's not enough housing, or not enough rental housing, and there's definitely not enough rental housing over there to meet the community. And I brought up the other comment that it's very hard for somebody to buy a new home, you know, a young person, to go into the situation. Now, another thing that I did bring up is the fact that there have been some recent studies, which will make him very happy, you know, that people prefer not to have. At one time, everybody wanted to own a piece of the rock. The home ownership was really important, and part of it was invigorated by the fact that you know, the appreciation, which was false, you know, that prices were going up. How do you see that today? What's happening? Why is there a lack of housing in Long Island? How do you keep these people in Long Island? You know, you guys are out there.
Well, I mean, maybe I'll try to go first. I mean, there's some really remarkable statistics about Long Island. I mean, in 2009, and Mark and Michael and I are all involved in the Long Island Builders Institute. In 2009, there were less than 1,000 housing units built on Long Island. That's for a demographic of 3 million people. It's quite remarkable to compare that to any other you know, major metropolitan area in the United States. And a lot of people say, well, that's the market. It's not really the market. It's the restriction of you know, the ability to build. And I think that Mark and Michael and I all have different challenges in trying to move that ball forward. But you know, the historical supply on Long Island, you know, is good and bad. It really it protects values, but it also, you know, it doesn't allow us to plan for the future and produce a sustainable number of housing units every year that we should be producing. You know, so if we set a goal of 10,000 units a year in Long Island, people would say, oh, that's too many. But, you know, back in the 70s, Long Island was building 25,000 housing units a year. And so people don't really make the connection to now we're building less than 1,000 a year. So, you know, in places, Michael's done a great job in some places where, and Bob has in Patchogue, where there's been some leadership at the local level to actually see some developments through. And I'm seeing that in a couple of mine right now as well, which I think is the key to get the housing production where it needs to go.
Mike, the key word on Long Island that we all talk about is the brain drain. And we want to stop the bright young people from leaving Long Island. And what Matt does and what Bob does and what I do, we effectively keep people on Long Island. There's an alternative. Somebody sells their home, and because of these statistics, they don't want to own another home. Avalon gives them an alternative. A young couple starting out who's not ready for a home, they can be in downtown Patchogue and have the pride of ownership. And same with me, I'm keeping people who might have gone to Florida.
But you know, look at what Mark is doing. He's giving somebody the opportunity to buy a house, you know, with mortgage rates at these record low numbers, you know, and as you said, also taxes. It's a good deal. I mean, for the ownership.
It's really what Long Island is. I mean, Long Island was the bedroom community for New York, and basically Long Island was homes, homes, homes. We didn't even start building condominiums on Long Island until the 80s, and what we built in the 80s was really pitiful. I mean, it was basically in the center of the island, and it wasn't anything anybody was very desirable.
Now, here's my next question, which relates to development, you know, 1,000 units and all the rest over there. It's called money. It's banking, you know, and you know, there is more money this year than there was last year. But unfortunately, there have been banks in Long Island who have made errors, and since they have made errors, the regulators are looking at all the banks and saying, even though you're strong, I don't want to do something called construction. You know, how do you build today? I mean, how you know, where are you getting the money? I mean, true, you're a REIT, so some of your situation is easier because you can raise money from the public markets. So I'm really trying to direct that question to the three of you.
Single family is the easiest thing to build from a money standpoint. If you think about it, when you look at your infrastructure in single family and the fact that you can phase a large single family project into several pieces, you can spread the infrastructure over those respective homes, and you roll your money constantly from home to home to home because you keep delivering homes and building another home and building another home. It's the easiest thing to finance and requires the least amount of capital per building unit. The condo guys, and one of the reasons that I've stayed out of the market as of late, it's a whole different situation. The infrastructure costs are so exorbitant and the land costs are so exorbitant that all their money is in. It's almost like playing poker and you push all your money in on the hand. It's a lot of money out there. And I'm just timid right now in that marketplace. I've played in that marketplace, but for now I'm staying out of it. And I'm lucky. The bank goes along with me with respect to single family.
Right, because as you said, you know, you can build 1 or 2 models. You don't have to build everything at the same time. And, you know, you get the order from the person, build it. You know? So it's less, and you're not dealing in the magnitude of 20, 50, 40, $50 million in a construction project like yours over there.
Well, we also have another problem, and that's the end loan. The end loan on single family is very easy. FHA mortgage, 3.5% down. You can borrow well over $500,000, buy the house, no problem. There's no question about completion of the project. There's no question about the sponsors of the project. In a condominium, the end loan guy doesn't want to be the first guy in on the condominium.
No, there's no question. So how are you gaining financing?
It really depends on the product that we're building, because we do a fair amount of commercial also. If we're depending on the size of the product, we can use some of the local banks. We'll deal with a lot of the local banks. But something like a Patchogue, which ultimately will be over a $100 million project, it's really a money center bank or insurance companies that we're talking with right now.
Now, but insurance companies traditionally don't like building residential housing.
We're finding people are pretty interested in apartments right now. That apartments seem to be a very, probably one of the better products out there to talk with people about.
Residential housing for apartments, insurance companies are interested. I mean, and then if you want to go with forward commitments on FHA, you know, you can get.
That's another option that we're talking about. Right.
But a lot of people have got, and I think you even brought up before, IDA money.
Well, we're actually working with the IDA just on the tax benefit side. We're not going through the financing side. One of the issues with the IDA on the financing side particularly is a requirement to go with prevailing wage. And so when you're going with stick-built and prevailing wage, it becomes cost prohibitive. So it's a difficult project.
And how are you seeing the financing world?
Well, fortunately, if you have a project that you didn't overpay for the land and you have a good track record and a long banking relationship, I've been able to do that. But on top of that, it's a whole brave new world of financing out there, in that there are so many government programs, there's subsidy monies, tax credits, tax bonds, facility bonds, that you could, you know, getting an education, because a lot of that can be the make or break difference between getting a project out of the ground and not getting it out of the ground. When I started in this business, it was how much does a piece of dirt cost? How much does it cost to build a house? What's my profit? That's all out the window.
You know, June 30th, the end of the first-time home buyers tax credit. What effect, I think when we brought it up before, what effect did you see on it, and what effect did you see? Because it was the first-time home buyer, and it was also the person who owned the home for 3 years, you know, the $8,000 tax credit and the $6,500 tax credit. Did it help in the sales?
It was very big, because my buyer is selling their home to a first-time home buyer in most cases, and that person buying the home from me wasn't making a move until they had a deal on their house. And that definitely helped and sparked sales. Sales is still continuing. I can't fine-tune it to measure what the drop-off was, if any, from that April 30th.
There has been a study. How about you, Mark?
I agree with Michael on the sale of prior residents. It was definitely beneficial to some of my buyers who needed to sell their home before they could buy another home. But it made almost no difference on the buy side with respect to my product. Nobody actually got the benefit from it, because again, Long Island takes so long to get anything done that for us to get in outside the deadline.
Because you're building one by one.
Correct. I can't make a house happen in 30 days, and it didn't happen for me.
You know, here's another question. I think Matt basically brought it up before. People in the shows that I've done about Long Island, the biggest problem is getting anything approved. Has that gotten any better? You know, from over the period of time. I remember I did this show with Eddie Blumenfeld a number of years ago, and Kenny Breslin, and you know, they were talking about the salamanders and the crickets, and you go to the community boards, and everybody says, no, another 5 years before you're going to get this done. Is that still happening?
Well, I mean, I think we're since I was skipped in the financing discussion, because my life is very easy.
Hey,
on the
the 850-pound gorilla. You don't have to worry about this.
We have challenges on our end on the rental side, but I think I do think some things have changed, and I do think that there are some select leaders on Long Island that have started to see the value of economic development. And I think, you know, Michael has had success talking to them, and I know Mark has, and Bob has in Patchogue, and we have in Huntington and in the town of Hempstead and in Rockville Center, where, you know, there really needs to be some political will to get developments through, because there, you know, especially on the rental side, there is a strong historical bias against rental housing. And once they get through, you know, it's sort of fun to see people recognize that they're not going to ruin the neighborhood and that they are our kids that we're trying to, you know, keep on the island. And I did want to comment on your earlier question to Michael and Mark about the tax credit, because unique circumstances is that we actually saw an impact, which you may not think because we're a rental company, but we do track where our residents go. And one of the highest factors in the first half of 2010 was to leave to buy their first home. So, you know, in a way, I'm helping Michael, you know, sell his homes at Meadowbrook, because the buyers that they're selling their homes to came out of a rental community. So we're all related in a sense. So we did see an effect from that. So, but I do think that the development landscape is changing.
Definitely
and I know
has.
Bob has.
It's getting easier, and I think it is selective political leaders out there right now.
What about the real estate taxes? I mean, I mean that's a partial nightmare depending on the town, right?
Really, it kind of draws at the 110 border between Nassau and Suffolk. It's
what's the difference in real estate taxes in Nassau? I mean, where you have most of your developments, and Suffolk.
On the residential side, it's probably double in
double.
Nassau than it is
Same
in
on the
Suffolk.
commercial.
Yeah.
I remember once when I was doing an office show in Nassau County, and the people said that the taxes could be greater than the rent. And sir, I mean, for older buildings.
For older buildings, for Class C buildings, I could see that. Yeah, you're really talking probably in Nassau about the $11+ range for a newer building right now. In Suffolk, we're probably at $550. Some towns it's even less, and then if you can get abatements, which you can, quite often maybe you can even lower that a bit.
Do you think the retail environment? I mean, the sales tax in Nassau and Suffolk. I think Suffolk is even more expensive than Nassau.
And the retail for us, it's really it's really an accessory to some of the product we're building. So we're not looking for large nationals that are making decisions. It's on demographic trends. It's really the local mom and pop that's coming in and saying that we think this will be a great place for a restaurant, or a local bank that wants to open up a branch and attack a certain marketplace.
I mean, you know, in New York City, you know, Avalon has these small little developments, and they got Whole Foods, and people love the amenity of being in the Bowery and being, you know, with, you know, you're right over there. They don't have to go. They have their restaurant. They have the cooking. They have the restaurant. Right. They have everything. So, you know, it looks like things are getting a little brighter. The skies are, you know, the stars are aligning a little nicer for Nassau and Suffolk County. And, you know, I think next season I hope to bring you all back to talk about what's happening in Nassau. I'd like to thank Michael Dubb, Mark Bache, Bob Coughlin, and Matt Whalen. See you next week.
Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Inc., New York's window company, Capital One Bank, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from AVR Realty Company, LLC, Briarwood Organization, Beechwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman & Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. Siami Construction, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackle Realty Services, M&T Bank, Markham LLP, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Meridian Capital Group, the Moynihan Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Newmark Knight Frank, Orphanides and Associates, SJP Properties, Sterling & Sterling Inc., Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, the Wickoff Group.